Hello, and welcome. My name is MiniBetrayal, and this is another tutorial design episode. Today we are going to be building this. This is a train outpost. It is very similar. It's not exactly the same, but it's very similar to my general outposts that I use in my 1 per minute world, which is actually where we currently are. Turns out I ran out of coal and needed a new coal outpost, so there you go. The way this system works, all of the trains have exactly the same schedule, and what this will do, the station will figure out, or the outpost I should say, will figure out how many trains it can cater for. If there are already that many trains at the station, it will reroute any new trains coming in to another outpost. It does that by turning off the actual stations without interfering with any trains that are already there. Any trains that are already on their way when a station gets turned off, we'll use this bypass lane here to basically turn around. Anyway, that's a basic explanation of what the station does. If you have more questions about it, feel free to leave a comment. In the meantime, back to past me, where we will actually build the thing. Today we are going to be covering my rail system. So we are in my 1 per minute world at the moment. Since the end of the last episode of that, we have run out of coal. We have 0 coal on the bus, and therefore we have no plastic, and therefore we have no red circuits, and therefore we have no blue circuits, and so on and so forth. So let me just hop in the train here and head off to this station. What we're going to do is, over here we've got a nice big coal deposit next to a nice big iron deposit that we'll probably use at some point as well, and there's already some rails leading out in that vague direction anyway. So we're going to head up there, we're going to rebuild our coal outpost, and instead of the basic outpost we've got here, I'm going to build this, or a slight variation of this, which is my outpost station. But instead of just copying this, I'm going to build it from scratch and explain what I'm doing along the way. Let's see, so at the moment we're just waiting for me to actually get there. My base is quite big, so it takes a while to get to anywhere useful. Okay, so first up we need to get our rails there. Okay, so here we are. Now, of course, we want to clear off the trees, and then lay down some miners. Okay, so this is my basic mining setup at the moment. We use logistics bots rather than belts. They come in little modules of 6. So I've got 4 modules laid out here, and I won't put lights down actually, because you don't really need to see what's going on for the most part. Yes, all of the miners are hooked up to each other with red circuits, and they are also hooked up to the power poles, which are all hooked up to each other. So the reason for doing 4 modules is I can copy all of that, and then as long as I overlay it on the previous lot, everything remains connected. So I will put down all my miners. Okay, all the miners are down. I've got a little bit of tidy up to do around the edges. Okay, and because of course it's a logistics network, we want to set up the roboports as well. Okay, now sometimes it can be difficult to see if the roboports do cover all of the logistics chests, so what I'm going to do is just temporarily hook it up and then look for anything flashing. There's one in the middle. Okay, that's all the flashing gone, so I'll unhook it from power. We don't need that just yet. Okay, then we move on to the actual station itself, which is the fun bit. So, what we'll do, we'll start off with the sort of output bit, which is where the trains leave the station. So they leave in this direction, and in this direction. We'll signal that. And then just before we actually put the station itself, I want a little bypass to come out like that. So our station will go there. And just to match up with the rest of my naming scheme, it will be called Outpost Coal. And it will be black. Now we want the station to be long enough for our trains. I am using 2.6 trains, or 260 trains. So they have 2 engines at the front, and then 6 wagons. So we'll stick with that. Now, just a little bit further back here, I do have a 2.6 train waiting to be used, just as a kind of ruler as much as anything else. Okay, so there we are parked at the station, so now we know how long we want this to be. Then we want to actually set up the loading itself. Okay, so we've got the inserters set up as well as the power poles. I will actually connect it to power just to stop the annoying flashing. There we go. Okay, now we want in this bit here, we want to put iron chests which are connected by red wires, like that. Okay, and then we want to hook each of those sections together. In the next section, we want to put requester chests, which are also connected by red wires. Okay, now the requester chests, what we'll do, we'll set each of them to mode of operation set requests. What this means is, well, what we'll do, we'll hook this up to the actual outpost, and then basically they are just going to request everything with one slight modification. Let's see, we've got, how many is it? We've got 72 there. So what we'll do first, we'll stick in an arithmetic combinator that just says for each divide by 72, or if you have a shorter station, however many requester chests you have, output each, and then we'll feed that into there, and then this will get its input from this big circuit network over here. So I'll hook this up. Just hooking it up with the cables first. There, and you can see each of these are now requesting 639,000 coal. More than enough to fill it. So the next thing we want to do is figure out how many trains will this new outpost be able to service. So what we'll do, we'll take another arithmetic combinator, we'll just do each plus 0 outputs, sorry, not each, output y, okay, and then we'll hook up the iron chests. So what this will do is, whatever is in these chests, in this case it will be coal, but it might be iron or copper or uranium or whatever, this will just turn that into a Y signal. Then we want, I go for 4 decider combinators, and this one says if Y is greater than 0, output, and then you just want to say, well, pick your favorite signal. Let's go for A, and we want it to say 1. Okay, and then the next one, if Y is greater than 1, not 1, sorry, if Y is greater than the amount of your material that will fit in this train. So a 2/6 train can hold, I think it's 12,000 raw ore. So if Y is greater than 12,000, that means we can completely fill one train and still have some spare left over for a second. Similarly, the third one down, we want to be Y is greater than 24,000, output an A, and if Y is greater than 36,000, output an A. So, if there is enough in these iron chests to completely fill one train, the station will become open for a second train. If there's enough for 2 trains and a bit, it will become open for 2 trains and a third to pick up the extra bit, and so on. So you can extend this up to however many 72 chests worth can hold. To hook this up, let's get some more cables on us. Okay, they come from this output here, and they will get hooked up to each other. So at the moment, we have nothing here, so we cannot cater for any trains. So if we hook up these 4 outputs here, that will mean that A is the number of trains we can cater for. If we then hook this up to the station, we can then say enable or disable. So enabled if A is greater than 0. So as long as we can cater for at least 1 train, this station will turn on. Otherwise the station is closed. Okay, let's put in these extra lines here. I also like to put in a passenger station. So the way we will do that, we will have a passenger outpost station, such as this one here. Then all we need to do is hook that up to something on a circuit network. So let's just put a light in there so we can see things. Lights are nice. And then the way I've got it set up is if 0 is greater, the 0 signal is greater than 0, the station is enabled. Now because it's not actually hooked up to anything more than a light, that will never be true. So if I want to turn the station on, I can remotely access this screen just by clicking on the station, uncheck that, and the station turns on. You see there's red lights, which are red, and on this one have gone yellow, which means the station is open. You can also see that on the map view. That station is closed, this station is open. Then to remotely close the station, I just recheck that, and it's closed again. Okay, so I've just sent my personal train to that station just to make sure it's long enough, and then we can hook both of these up. We want to go round like that. And then that will join up over here somewhere with our train stacker. So we just want to signal this correctly. So we want a signal there, a signal there, and a signal there, and a signal there. And then let's move on with the train stacker, or I'll just put some lights in as well. Okay, so for the train stacker, we want to bring this one round to think it's one more than that. It's there. Yep, that works. And we're going to have space to stack 3 trains. So we'll have 1, 2, 3. Okay, at the bottom end of each of these we will have another train stop. This one we will call waiting call. We'll then grab the train or the long train again, just to make sure that we're actually leaving enough space for things to park there. And then these 4 lines here, they want to merge, and then they will come from the train network. Okay, so it turns out in this particular setup I didn't actually leave enough room. However, the junction itself isn't part of the train station itself. So when I blueprint this, the blueprint string will be in the description, or at least a link to it will be. You will have to set up your own actual junction. The important bits here is that these all come from one line. This needs to be a chain signal. These ones here need to be ordinary signals, as does that one. Okay, then down at this end, we also want ordinary signals on this side, like that. We do not have any signal between this one and the actual station. This station, sorry. There's only the signal on the other side of it over here. There is a very good reason for that, which we will get to in a moment. Okay, next, this A signal that we've made over here, we want to bring towards the train stations. So I've put in a long power pole there and a long power pole over here, or large power pole, and another one there. That gets us close enough. Okay, so that will tell us how many trains we want. So the idea is, if we do not have enough ore for 4 trains, this station will turn off. If we do not have enough ore for 3 trains, this station will turn off, and so on. So the way we do that, we get a decider combinator, and we'll put one next to each station, like that. We'll also power these with a substation. I've got a substation somewhere. Oh, very first slot. There we go. Okay. This one will say if A is less than 4, output an X, 1X. And this will be if A is less than 3, and then if A is less than 2. And then X is going to be my don't do anything signal. So these stations here, these will also be hooked up. They're not actually hooked up to anything at the moment, but their enabled condition will be X equals 0. So if they receive an X, they will turn off. Next, we want to tell if there is a train at the station. Now this one's a little bit more complicated, so we'll move over here for a bit. And I'll introduce you to the SR latch. T is equal to 0, output T. So we've got 2 combinators here. Both of them are exactly the same. They both say if T equals 0, output AT. So both of them are like that, and they are hooked up sort of diagonally. So the output of one goes to the input of the other, and vice versa. Now what this does, this forms a sort of memory. So it's called an SR latch because it can be both set and reset. So if it receives a T signal in this one here, in this left combinator, it will be getting a T, so it will output nothing. So this one will get nothing, so it will output a T. And this one is getting a T, so it outputs nothing. This one gets nothing, so it outputs a T. So if you put a T in here, this one outputs a T. And the clever thing about this is, even when you stop inputting a T, this keeps outputting a T until you reset it by putting a T in down here, and then it will swap back over. So it's a little memory cell. It will remember the set state until you reset it. So that's what we'll use to remember when there is a train in the station. So next to each one, we're going to put one of these, and it's going to get its T. So let's hook that up. This one's going to get a T from this station. So it's going to read stopped train. And we'll set the enabled condition here as well, x equals 0. So all three of these are going to be the same. So at the moment there is a train at the station. So this one is getting 639 Ts actually, because that happens to be the ID of this train. The important thing is, that means it's getting a T, so it's not outputting a T. This one is not getting a T, so it is outputting 1 T. But even when this train moves on, this is still getting the 1 T from this one. So when there is a train at the station, this top combinator outputs a T. And when the train has moved on, it will keep outputting a T. So of course, we do need to be able to reset it at some point. So let's just put that back to the station for now. And the reset condition comes from this signal up here. We'll say that the station is open for business once this signal turns green, i.e. the train has completely left the station. So the way we'll do that, we want 3... Oops, let's line them up at least. 3 large power poles which are not actually connected to power. You can connect them to power if you want. I just think it looks neater for them not to be. The reason we need 3 separate ones is because we're carrying 3 separate signals. If we had 3 colors of wire, we could do it all in one, but we don't. So we'll take this one down here. This one needs to go to another combinator that says if green is greater than 0, output a T. So if it gets a green signal, this will output a T and use it to reset this SR latch here. And then we'll have another one of these. This one just says if T is greater than 0, output an X. And this will get its input from the top combinator in that SR latch. And then these 2 ones that can output an X, they hook back up to the train station. Rather than hooking them all the way up over there, I'll just hook it up there because it's a little bit neater. Okay, so we've got 5 combinators there. Quick summary. This one remembers whether there is a train at the station. This one says if there is a train at the station, turn the station off. This one says if the train has completely left the station, then you can turn the station back on. And this one says if we don't have enough ore to open this station, then close the station regardless. So I'm going to put the same 5 combinators there, there, and there, and I'll also bunch them up and make them look a little bit neater. Okay, so that's all done there. Of course, these ones at the top, they need to get their A signal input, so they just come from this one here. Now they can be hooked up to each other. Okay, and that's the majority of the logic there. Now this last station here, this does have a little bit of extra logic. The reason for that is because the trains, what they'll do, they'll come into these waiting stations, they'll wait for just a second, they'll then try to move on directly to the actual outpost station to load up. But that means if there's only enough for one train, none of these are open. So what we do is we have another signal that says if A is equal to 1, which is a special case, we want this station to be open unless there is a train in here and unless there is a train in this entire block here. Because if there's a train in here as well, then we've already got one train at the station, so we don't want to open it up for another one. So what we'll do, if A is equal to 1, we'll output a B, and then if red is greater than 0, output a B, and then if B is equal to 2, output an X. So this one here checks to see if A equals 1, so we need to hook. Let's just move this, stop the flashing, there we go. Oh, one more. Okay, this one here checks to see if A equals 1. So it needs the same input as that one up there. If A is equal to 1, it will output a B. This one here says if red is greater than 0, output a B. So this is future MiniBetrayal, just popping in to fix a little bug that I noticed as I was editing the episode. I'm just on my way to the station now. Before I get to that though, it does give me the little opportunity to travel back in time, as it were, and apologise for the long gap between this and the previous video I've uploaded. My main 1 per minute series is largely finished. There's a little sneak peek for you. I'm just doing some optimization and waiting for the big bus to back up. But, you know, that's taking an awfully long time, and then there was an issue where something corrupted. Luckily I keep multiple copies of saves, just in case. But anyway, so yes, apologies for that. What I have come to fix is this combinator here. This is the second from the bottom. It's red is greater than 0, output 1B. The reason I didn't notice it's an issue, even though, you know, this coal station has now been running for many hours, is that will only come into effect once the ore deposit starts running out, which it has not done. Okay, so yes. Slap on the wrist for past me. This combinator here needs to output 1B, not the B input count. Alright, back to past MiniBetrayal again. So this one gets its input from this signal there. Could get it from any one of those, but it doesn't matter. So, if X is 1, and there is a train in this section here, then we don't want to open the station, so we want to give it an X. So, if B is equal to 2, we'll give it the X. And then that's hooked up. Both of those B's go to that one, and then this X wants to join up with the other X's up there. So that last bit was a little bit more complicated, but hopefully it makes sense. The station is actually now done. We've got a couple bits of sort of tidy up to do, so we want a few more roboports, so I'll plop them in. Okay, it's the very last two things to do. We'll hook everything up to the power again. I do need to reconnect this to to that. And where does this get its input from? This comes straight in there. No, that joins up to this one, that's right. Okay, and you can see it's already started requesting, so the bots are starting to go. I've given this station 300 bots. For iron or copper, I would typically give it 1,000 bots, but we don't need that much coal in comparison to everything else. Now, of course, we want to set up the train schedule, so let's go and look at the trains. Oh, that should be switched off now. Okay, I just popped back to actually put down a radar, and one slight correction. This top left combinator here does not want to say... Actually, it's wrong anyway. So it does not want to say is less than 2. So before we had that one set to less than 3, we had this one set to less than 2. That's actually still wrong. That one has to be if x equals 0. Okay, so here we are back at the Omni station. I'm doing less building now, so let me put my legs back on. That's better. Okay, so a quick description of what goes on here. We've got a bunch of train stackers on the left-hand side, a bunch of unloading stations at the bottom. The way these are set up, they each have this heap of combinators underneath. Now, this probably could be optimized, but essentially this is split into 7 sections of 7 combinators. So I'll just pop this one down here and give it some power so it doesn't flash at me. And then we'll go through what each section does. So each section is for one of the solid resources. So we've got copper, iron, or copper ore, iron ore, uranium ore, fish, stone, wood, and coal, but we have no coal at the moment. So this particular one is stone. Okay, so the stations are set up so they will both send to the train and read the train contents, and they are hooked up to this input here. Let me grab... So they're hooked up to that one, and the output of this one. Yeah, okay. So this one here says, if stone is greater than 0, output a K signal. And you can see it's also hooked up via the input to this one here, which says, if stone is greater than 0, output an S signal. So this one outputs an S, this one outputs a K. So the S comes in here. It says if S is equal to 1, output another K. Both of those together come into here and says if K equals 2, output an A. So, remember, if this is a stone train, this one gets stone, this one gets stone. They both, this one outputs an S, this one turns that S into a K. So these two are both outputting K, so this one outputs an A. This one here says if X equals 1, output an A. This one here says if S is less than 0, output an A. So this one here gets an input from this slot down here, which determines how much I want minus how much I've... No, wrong way around. How much I've got of stone minus how much I want. The upshot of that is if I have less than I want, this S is a negative number, so it outputs an A. This one here says if X equals 1, output an A. That is hooked up to this, which is a clock. You can see, if I just mouse over that, X is a signal that just counts up from 1 to 600. That is to stop all the trains going off at the same time. So, it will, if it needs to, it will send off a train whenever X equals 1. And then this last combinator here says if A equals 3, output a B. So, if the little clock counter has reset to 1, and we need stone, and there is a train containing stone here, output a B. And that B goes back into the train, and you can see each of the trains says wait here until B is greater than 0. So wait here until it gets that B signal. Now you may be wondering, why am I saying K and S, which an S turns into a K? So these could be seen as unnecessary. Why not just say, if stone is greater than 0, go straight to the A? The reason for that is because I have more than one train. So, each of them has, if you follow the sort of trace back here, this, or these two, they do get their input from the train station. If I highlight that, you can see that the Y leading up to the actual train stop gets highlighted. But they also have an input from this combinator here. This combinator just says everything multiplied by 1 output everything. So this actually acts as a diode. But it also outputs, if I follow up this one, it also outputs to the next one down. So that means this one here is fish, so it's outputting an F. Or if I come along to this one here, if stone is greater than 0, outputs the S. That S comes along here, down into this one, into this diode here, and then we'll trace around into this one, or into this one. So it's getting an S from the stone train here, but it's also getting an S from the stone train further up. So S is not equal to 1. S is equal to 2. So it doesn't output the K, so it doesn't output the A, so it doesn't output the B, and the stone train stays here. What that means is that when I need a resource, let's say iron. Let's say we need some iron. We have iron trains here and here, and here and here and here and here. We'll wait for the X clock to tick round to 1, but only the very top train will move on, because I, which is my signal for iron, is only 1 for this train. I is 2 for this one, 3, 4 and 5. Once this train has moved on, X is no longer 1, so this one stays here. If we still need stone by the time X ticks back round to 1 again, this next train will move on. I will also put a blueprint to something useful. It won't be the whole station, but it'll be something about the circuit set up here. I might just do the bottom 2 stations, and you can extend it as necessary. Anyway, we actually came here to do something about the coal. So my coal trains are at the top, they are empty. So even though we need coal, because there's actually no coal in them at the moment, the system doesn't recognize them as coal trains. So we'll extend them to 2 6 trains. Oops. And what we want them to do is they will go to parking for 2 seconds of inactivity, just to make sure that they have fuel, and their circuit signal is B. Then they will go to the Omni in station until they are empty. If you don't have an Omni in station like this, or just want a more basic setup, then you can just sort of merge those into whatever unloading station you've got. Then they will go to waiting coal until time passed 1 second. Cannot be 0 seconds, that causes bugs, but 1 second is no great wait. Then they will go to outpost coal until they are full. And that will just work. There is one slight change we can make, which is if we say wait until full, or the circuit condition A is equal to 0. What this means is, as the outpost dies down, eventually we will have a train in the station that's loading up that will be just waiting there forever, because there's no more coal for this train to get, but it's just waiting. Otherwise it's waiting here until it's full. If we say or A equals 0, so if we just copy that onto that, set them both to automatic, we'll hop in this train. In a moment it'll want to go to the, when X is equal to 1 on the side there, it'll want to go off to the coal station. Actually, no, it won't, because we need to pinch a bit of coal first. Hang on, I will do that now. Okay, so now these have some coal, and they'll actually be recognized as coal trains, and they will go to where they want to go. So only the top train goes first, which is good. This will go to the unloading station until it's empty. It will then go to the waiting station for 1 second. It will then go to the filling up station. And this one here, which is currently receiving 4 A's, if we just also send that to the train, then whenever it doesn't get an A signal at the outpost, it'll move straight on, because there's no more coal. So the very last train to go there won't get stuck there, it'll just head back. It won't be full, but that's alright. If you have another coal outpost somewhere, it will be fine. Anyway, I hope this was enough of an explanation for you. I'm aware that I am by no means the best person when it comes to optimizing the combinators and the circuits and everything like that. If you have any questions, please do leave them in the comments description. Similarly, if you have any comments about how I might improve the system. Otherwise, I am going to go and defend that outpost now, because it's actually quite close to some biter nests. Yeah, let's have a look at... yeah, I need to go and do that now. So, let me go grab some guns and ammunition in the meantime. Hello again, just popping back after the end of my episode. The coal station has now backed up, and that does come with a little side effect. You'll notice I'm getting an alert saying that there's not enough logistics network storage space available. The reason for that is the requester chests. They request their ore, and because they're requesting more than they can carry, some of the bots, by the time they actually get to the requester chest, the chest will be full, so you can just see the bots sort of hovering there waiting for the space to become available. And because the trains have now backed up as well, there's no trains coming to collect anymore. There is a very, very simple way you can fix this. Here I am at the station. You just get a single logistics storage chest and pop that down. And I took out my box for something. There you go. And then if there is any spare, they will instead put it in the storage chest. You don't need any more than one, and that chest should never fill up. In fact, if we have a quick look at one of my bases that has been there for a while, let's see. Let's go for this one here. I've got some repair packs in that one. Let's have a look at these ones up here. So I do have a storage chest in there. It has 35 in it. So yeah, it's not going to fill up, and it doesn't impact the running of the station at all, but it does stop that annoying little beep beep every 30 seconds or however long it is. Anyway, thank you. And ammunition. In the meantime, I will say thank you very much for watching, and I will see you again soon.